series, A Meaningful Life. We have good news. And the good news is that we've graduated from childhood. We're out of the childhood. We've lived. Okay, we got through the high school years. We did all of that stuff. So I want to start tonight with a story. Okay, we'll start with a story. Once upon a time, a young adult bought a ticket on a train. It was going from city A to city B. Okay? Very simple transaction, not very complicated. He buys his ticket, gets into the coach, sits down on the coach, and it takes off from the station. The train is traveling, it's traveling. And now he's busy in the beginning, he's reading a book, doing the things that you normally do if you're a traveler, trying to pass the time on this train ride from point A to point B. And then eventually he looks up and he begins to realize that 1 second he looks out the window and he begins to see, villages are passing by, and there's mountains that are passing by, and other things are passing by, and this train is not stopping anywhere. It's not stopping. And a day goes by, and he continues to look out the window, and he sees train stations where the train is not stopping, and it just flies by the train station, and it keeps going, and then there's more cities, and more mountains, and more fields, and he begins to get really frustrated because when's he getting to his destination? He bought a ticket to go from point A to point B, but somehow this train is not taking him to point B. This train is taking him on a journey that never ends. The train is just going to continue going. Now, why do I tell you this story? Because what happens at the end is he becomes very frustrated, right? And we're going to analyze tonight where the frustration sits in. Because this is really a story, it's an analogy of our lives. Because why? Because we've been trained in our lives to do certain things with a beginning and an end, goal-oriented. For example, we're in 9th grade. Now we're expected in 9th grade to come in on September, 7th, you sit in your class, you got your books, you take your notes, and by June 15th, you're expected to do what? Pass, right? We want to go from point A to point B. September 15th, June 15th comes along, everybody's the step up thing, congratulations, you've made it to 10th grade. That's expectations, right? We all have those expectations. And it's expected of you to do that. What happens if all of a sudden 9th grade never ends? Ay Rahman al-Islam, God forbid. If 9th grade just never ends, you just kept going back and back and back. You kept going, September comes, and then June and July, and it teaches another September and another September. What would happen is a beginning frustration would set in. Because why? Because we're not meeting our expectations. We're not coming to the point of where we expect it to be at this particular moment. Young children, little ones that we talked about last week, have easy goals from point A to point B, meaning that they sit and they want to do a puzzle. A puzzle, is 5 pieces, boom, they're done, they've accomplished. They're done. As they grow older, you begin to see that the tasks become harder and harder, but the rewards are greater. Because a little child is happy, you go to preschool, you give them a lollipop and a cupcake. This is the greatest day on earth. There could never be anything better than a cupcake and a lollipop. As a matter of fact, last week my grandson Manny told me that it was a special day because it was 2 birthdays. So you know what that means? 2 cupcakes. So my supper, he's like, there were 2 cupcakes today. Thank God he's my grandson, so I leave. Let my daughter, I let you deal with him. What do I have to do? It's not my business. I give him 3 cupcakes, okay? But as we grow older, those cupcakes are not sufficient enough for us. Now, the reward is jacked up. So for example, now if you're 10 and 12, you want something better at the end of the game. You want to have a bicycle. Oh, and what do you think? And you think that when you reach that stage, that you're going to work hard to that bicycle. You're going to come there, you finally make it, and you get the bike, and you unwrap the gift wrap, and there it is. The thing you've been working for a whole year, you sit on it, you would expect what? Complete gratification. Total gratification. But you know what happens right away? It loses its meaning. It loses its meaning. And then we're on to the next hunt. because a bike can only suffice for a certain period of time. Then we have greater. Now we want a racing bike. Then we want a car. Then we want a ninth car. So life becomes one string of expectations, goals, meaning, reward, and keep going and keep going. Now think about the traveler. Come back to the traveler for a moment. He was sitting on the train with great expectations. That means he had a goal. He wanted to get to this point. When the point didn't come, frustration set in. He started to pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. When am I going to get off this train? When am I going to meet my goals? When am I going to finally get my reward? It's to us working hard every single day and never ever achieving that which we set out to do. It's always one further, one more stop, one more stop, one more stop. And then what happens? Frustration sets in and we become bitter. And if you watch the guy in the train, it's either one of two things is going to happen to him. Either his bitterness is going to take him over and he's going to sit as an old bitter man in the corner of a train like folded arms, or he's going to adapt to the situation. He's going to become used to now, he has to change his entire formula and begin to realize that everything that he had before, all of his priorities before has to change right now. Because now he has to adapt to the situation. He's going to be living in a train for who knows how long, and he has to make those things work for him. This is true for us as well. And the writer ends the story by saying, this is what life is about. We have to realize that life is not a journey from point A to point B. That's not what we live for. We live for the journey itself. For that part of the train ride, that's the excitement in life. Not to reach an expectation and reach point B, get off the train, okay, we're here, wow, I made it to Vancouver, and now I'm thrilled. That's not what life is about. Life is a continuous, endless journey of new and open ideas, of trying to live life every day with an open mind. And once this guy realizes that, then think about everything that he can do in the train. Life becomes better for him. He begins to discover new things, new lakes, new places, all of these things, new people. He begins to talk to other people in the train. He begins to form friendship and bonds. And then, when the train all of a sudden becomes this new milieu that he has, and he becomes satisfied and happy within the train ride itself. He doesn't need the city anymore. Who cares about the city? He begins to forget everything that he had planned to get off the city, because this is his new life. Now the writer ends that what a person should do is, when reading the story, is stop. Stop. Stop what you're doing. Think of where you're racing to. Where are you racing to? In the middle of the day, you're in a car. What are you running to? Where? What? Who? What? Deadlines, things, expectations, worries, all of these things. Forget about it. Stop what you're doing and do something completely different. Go and have lunch. Okay, when was the last time you went out for lunch with your friends, or went out with lunch with your husband, or did something totally unexpected, completely unexpected? When was the last time you did that? We don't. Because why? Because our life is one endless string of point A to point B. We reach point B, now we've got to go to point C, go to B, D. What do? We never deviate. We never deviate from any of those things that we want to get to that point. Okay, we have to get there. Otherwise, what are the people going to think about this? You mean in the middle of the day, I should go down to the beach and run on the beach? Or I should go and rent a kayak in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon and start kayaking around Naples and all of these things? What are you, crazy? People are going to see me. They're going to say, I think the rabbi lost his mind. The guy is kayaking on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the waters of Naples. All of that stuff. But my friends, he writes at the end, the author writes, this is really what life is about. Doing not the unexpected to the point of where there's no goals and your life is one string of just random acts, but not tunnel vision yourself. Don't let yourself get pigeonholed into the belief that there's some place over in the rainbow that's going to make you happy, because it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. There's no place. If I won $1 million, I was thinking about this just today or yesterday. You know what? The beginning of the month is when you pay your bills. At least when I pay my bills. It's always the worst day of the month. All right? So I thought to myself, you know what? If I won the lottery, okay, $20 million, okay, Would it make me happier? Would it make life easier? Don't know. If it would make life easier for sure, you won't have to worry about paying your mortgage, doing back and forth. But in reality, would it make me really happy? And the answer is no. I'd become probably more miserable, because now everybody would know, they'd be leeching onto me and everything else. You never know who's your friend, who's not your friend, who wants you, who doesn't want you, all of those things. Before you know it, many people who won the lottery live miserable lives. They lost everything and hated and said they wish they had never won the money, right? Unless you can control the money. You can control the money. But that's not so easy. That's a very, very hard point. Because again, the $20 million is what? A destination. Oh, if I had that $20 million, then I would really, 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 really be happy. Really be happy. You know, so you got to be careful what you wish for. Because maybe it does come true. You'll get the $20 million and it's not going to make you as happy as you think. Because the author of the story is correct. That our lives are really a journey. And it's a journey to everyday common things that we need to really enliven and really embrace. Those are the things, not waiting for something today, tomorrow, because you know what happens? We become old and gray and tomorrow never comes. And that's the story of the traveler. Now, let's for a moment, just go back to the story for a second, okay? The guy is sitting there in the train. In the beginning, what happens is, he starts to wonder, what's going on? You know, in life we're wondering what's going on, where is this leading us, where are we going? But later on, after the wondering ends, you start to get surprised. That's the word I was thinking of. You start to get frustrated. You begin to get frustrated. Why? Because you haven't met those expectations. And think of ourselves as well. We are formed with two types of expectations. One from the outside world and one from within our own mechanism. So from the outside world, we talked about the 9th grade. So a Jewish person is expected to do what? You grow up, you go to school, you got to go to college, you got to have a career, you got to do this, you got to do that. Everything is expected of you. These are the things that's been laid down before you by your parents, your peers, your congregation, whatever it is. Then you have your own table of mechanism that takes what's inside of you, right? Now, of expectations. If your expectations kind of gel with what people are expecting of you, okay, so you could be a relatively happy person. But what if those expectations don't jive what's going on inside of you? What if the expectations of society, your parents, your family, is not what you are? This is not what you want to do. So what happens is then all of a sudden frustration starts to set in, right? You want to go, your parents are telling you, no, you have to be a lawyer, you've got to be a lawyer, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a lawyer, a doctor, accountant. And you know what? And you're Mozart. Now you're Mozart. Now imagine if Mozart would be born to Finkelstein, okay? The Mr. and Mrs. Finkelstein. What would happen? They would be pushing him. What? You want to do music? What, are you crazy or something? Think you make a living in music? There's no way you could write music after you get your medical degree. When you have Dr. Mozart, then spend your time writing out the type of music you want, hoping secretly in their heart that it's only a phase, right? It's only a phase, he'll get over it. He's not that good anyways in writing the music. He'll get over it. But you don't get over it, right? Because if you're Mozart, what is music to you? Is it a passing fad? It's your life. Music is your life. It's not something, it's much more than a passion. Is people have, collecting trading cards. A hobby could be a passion. To Mozart, music is life. Life itself. He breathes it, he eats it. He's the example of what he walks music. That's what it is. And that unfortunately happens too many times to us because, again, those two things of outside expectations and inner workings don't gel. They don't come together in harmony because I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to do my own thing. Or even though, I do want to be a doctor. Okay, fine. I want to be a doctor, but I want to go to this school, and don't want to go to that school. I want to go here. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to take off a year and go traveling. Are you crazy? You want to take off a year out of college and go traveling? What are you, nuts or something? You're going to go teach English to people in Prague, in Czechoslovakia. What are you, nuts or something? You're crazy? No way, you can't do that. Your parents would freak. No, after you get your degree, then you go and you teach English in Prague. But, what?
No, my parents left today to teach English in Prague.
You see that? You see what a genius I am? I am a prophet. You see that? You see that? I am a prophet. How do I know that? I'm connected above. That's it. You see that? Excuse me, weird, huh? Spooky. No, because you know that it's, the chance of me saying English and teaching English in Prague is so remote. And how many people go teach English in Prague? Quite a few. Quite a few. There are quite a few people go teach. That's why. But it's just freaky that your parents should leave today to go teach English in Prague. But you see, when did they go to teach English in Prague? They waited till the children grew up, everything was settled, then they went. But at 19, you tell your parents, I want to go teach English in Prague. They'll say, are you nuts or something? Forget about it. Nothing doing. What does this cause? Angst. This causes conflict. This causes conflict. And what we don't want is in our lives, especially if we want to live lives of meaningful, we want to live a meaningful life, we have to figure out how we can balance everything from outside expectations of who we are to inner expectations, and then and also be able to live within a unit called a family, because there, again, you have expectations. I mean, you're a parent and you haven't thought about this yet because, listen, your parents said get married, you're a nice girl and you got married to a nice Jewish guy, and and all of this stuff, and you have children now you're expected to do some of these things, and you're not ready to do that. You're not ready to settle down. You still have a lot of living to do. And what happens now, I got 6 kids, and with 6 kids, it's I can't go skydiving, my wife says. Who knows, it's too dangerous or something like that. So then you have to figure out how to fit that and all of your expectations within that kind of a milieu. Now, what does it have to do particularly to Judaism? Because Judaism says, and it's a very, very interesting Mishnah in the ethics of our fathers, it says, who is a free person? How do you describe freedom? Now, there's many different ways how we can describe freedom. Freedom, if you lived back in the 60s, you know what freedom was? Now, you're too young to remember this, but I was a kid back in the 60s. You know what freedom was? Owning nothing. No job, no materialistic attachments, nothing. Because why? Because the more you have, what is the idea? The more enslaved you are, right? So if you have a car, are you worried about it getting bombed? If you have a house, you're worried about it getting burnt down. If you have a wife, you're worried about her running away with somebody, or emailing pictures of herself to your friends or something like that. Today you never know what's going to go on in the world. Okay, so you worry about that. Then if you have a business, you worry about the business falling through. If you have a medical practice, you worry about one day none of your patients show up. All of these things you worry. So the only way not to worry is what? To have nothing. Freedom is absolutely having nothing. No job, no house, no money, nothing. How do you live? You live you live from day to day. You live from day to day. That, my friends, is not freedom. That's, I think, the worst kind of enslavement is that kind of thing. What is freedom? So freedom in America, the capitalists would say, you know what freedom is? When you got $1 billion, you're free. You're free to do whatever you want. But it's not true, because $1 billion is really, it's really enslaving you to the $1 billion. Now you got to worry about, okay, someone's going to steal it, someone's going to take it, what's going to happen to it, all back and forth and back and forth. So the Mishnah says, who is free? Ein ben chayrin. There's nobody that's free ela b'mi sha'isik b'Torah. Only someone that is diligently connected to the Torah. Osek b'Torah. Not learns Torah, but osek, diligently connected to the Torah. So the rabbis thought for a long time, it's interesting to note that for 2,000 years we didn't have a country. Right? From the year 70 when Jerusalem was destroyed till 1948, the Jews were homeless. Right? We didn't have anything. The Jews were completely homeless. They're homeless. What happens? our best minds, the greatest rabbis, begin to think and to plan and to strategize what Judaism is all about, what it is. So they have a lot of time to think. So what does it mean when you talk about freedom? You talk about freedom as only somebody that is occupied and diligently with Torah. And the answer is like this. What does Torah do for us? Okay, well, we'll take a minute break so that everybody could shift around. All right, you see? All right. No. All right. So what does it actually mean? It means like this. What does the Torah do for us in order to make us free? So everything that we talked about before, all of the frustrations, all of the angst, all of the conflict that we have within inside of us, we have to now refocus, because now we're attached to something that's grounding us. Grounding us. That is a very, very important part of the human dimension. Being grounded and not being rootless. Now, what I described before, a hippie, rootless. Rolling stone, right? It's a very, very big thing in the 60s. Being like a rolling stone gathers no moss. A rolling stone doesn't, it doesn't have to worry about anything. A rolling stone. The Torah is exactly the opposite. The Torah is something that grounds us down, that puts us down and gives us roots. Why does it give us roots? Because it gives us meaning and expectations in our lives. That we know from early on that when we talk about what it means to be a Jew and what it means to be part of the Jewish people, is it gives us a sense of belonging. That everybody, no matter who it is, whether one is well versed in the Torah or one is very, very limited knowledge of the Torah, it doesn't make any difference. Every one of those people, as long as they're connected to the Torah, as long as they look to the Torah for a certain guidance, what the Torah does is it gives you meaning and reason and grounding. So we look at the Torah now, like for example, the old stories of the guy, he came to the rabbi and he told the rabbi, "Rabbi, I'm really up the creek without a paddle." The rabbi said, "Why?" "Because my business is just going and forget about it." So the rabbi said, "Listen, we Jews know that for thousands of years, what do we do? Where do we look for guidance? We look for guidance in the Torah, what it tells us to do. So we look for guidance in the Torah. Okay, the rabbi says, go home, take the Torah, open it up, and the first thing you'll do. Okay. A few months later, the rabbi runs into the same gentleman. The guy is smiling. The rabbi says, everything worked out. He says, "Rabbi, to a T, you gave me the best advice." He says, "What did you do?" He says, "I opened up the Chumash, it said chapter 11. I declared chapter 11, no more problems." Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you so much. So if you look into the Torah, and you think about it, and you're able to digest and to integrate, internalize all of those lessons, what it does is, it's not only does it give you a grounding in life and gives you a meaning for where it is, but it also puts you together with a tremendous history from all the way back from Abraham until this present day. And one who's more connected to the Torah, one who really understands the ways of the Torah, are much not calmer, but I would say are much more focused and understand that this is part of their legacy, part of their destiny, and slowly but surely become part of the Torah itself. You become part of the Torah. And what it does is it alleviates a lot of these frustrations that we have. Because why? Let's take, for example, last week we studied an unbelievable portion about childbirth, and a woman, after she gives birth to a child, she has to bring a sin offering. And you know what? You look at this and you read this over and over again, and you say, you know what? The Torah is it's so not contemporary, right? It's not contemporary. Why in America today, we should think that a woman who gave birth, this is the greatest celebration. They go through all of this feeling of, like, you'll agree with me on this, at least the men in the room will, that if it was up to men to give birth, zero population growth, no people on this earth. Forget about it. Men get nervous when they have a stubbed toe. Forget about carrying a child for 9 months. Forget about it. Okay? So here is, we celebrate this. This is like the greatest blessing. And yet, when the woman comes out of childbirth, we say to her, hey, bring a sin offering. Now, why does she need to bring a sin offering? And why is she, as they call, spiritually defiled? Like she can't come to the Beis Hamikdash, she can't do this, she can't do that. She's what we call Tomei. So the rabbi said, you know why? Think about this for a moment. Think about this for a second. And this is something you have to use your imagination with. In the beginning of the world, when the world first started, right? We lived in this pristine, wonderful existence, right? Wonderful existence. And the idea was that if Adam impregnated Eve, there'd be absolutely no pain in childbirth. No pain. And she wouldn't have to carry for 9 months. It would be in daily or whatever, monthly. Something would happen, but absolutely no pain. What happened? What happened in the beginning, the first section in Genesis that threw us off, derailed the entire plan, was what? Hello? What? Eating what? Eating the forbidden fruit. Okay? Eating the forbidden fruit. What happened now was that the snake came along, okay? Told the woman, Eve, come on, eat the apple. She said, no, can't do it, back and forth. He pushes her to eat the apple. Then what does she do? She's not happy eating the apple herself. She gets her husband to eat the apple. So Eve passes it to Adam. God shows up, right? And what does he say? Who ate the apple? And he asks Adam, why did you eat the apple? So instead of being a man and saying, you know what, it was my own decision, what did he do?
Blame it on the snake.
He didn't blame it on the snake. Who did he blame it on? Eve. She said, she did it to me. She was the one that did it to me. Then he looks to Eve, why did you do it? So instead of being a woman and taking responsibility, what did she do? She blamed it on the snake. She said, the snake made me do it. The snake thing. Okay? What happened at that moment, if you think about it, what happened at that very moment is what Adam and Eve unleashed unto the world. Before this pristine, wonderful life that God was supposed to create for human beings, that we would have no pain, no sorrow, no conflict, they brought all of this into the world. All of this now came into the world. And what did God, since we're dealing with women, what did God punish the woman with? What did he say to her? I'm now going to increase your suffering and your childbirth. What does that mean? That means not only are you going to suffer while you're being pregnant, but what you're going to do is even giving birth, you're going to suffer too. And not only that, wait till the kid gets born, then all of a sudden, it's going to be tough. And for man, what you're going to do is you're going to suffer because the earth was supposed to was going to produce great, wonderful fruits. Now you're going to have to work hard. You're going to plow and you're going to do this, all of that stuff. And what's going to happen? The earth is going to go, not going to do what you want it to do. So all of your efforts will be for naught. What happened over here? What happened over here? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you read it, it doesn't make any sense. Why? Because why should someone in the year 2007 have to go through childbirth with pain because Eve was the one that did it? Eve ate an apple, so every single woman after that, for billions of women, have to suffer? But what they did was, what Eve did, is she unleashed into the world, not only unto herself, but into the world, and I mean men as well. I'm not singling out any women, God forbid, but I'm talking about the original Adam and Eve. What they brought into the world was this whole idea of conflict and suffering. Conflict and suffering. That blood that a woman spills during childbirth reminds us of that. It always brings us back to the original state. And even though we celebrate tremendously for the health of the child, and we celebrate wonderful, wow, this is the greatest thing, and believe me, there's no bigger mitzvah than giving birth to a Jewish child. And we always say, every Jewish child is another nail in Hitler's coffin. That you know what? Because you bring another Jew into the world, you educate them. There's no greater mitzvah than pruervu, to procreate and to do that. That's the thing. But at the same time, at the very same time, we remember the original, I don't want to call it sin, because you know why? Because the Christians have really racked up a lot of mileage on this concept of original sin. But remember the original state of the world, the original state of the world, the way it was supposed to be. And it didn't turn out that way. And now all of a sudden, every woman is reminded during childbirth of what Eve did. And if that Eve hadn't done it, and that's why we bring a sin offering as a remembrance that once upon a time we lived in a completely different realm of spirituality. And we don't live it anymore. We don't see it anymore. We hope that it'll one day return. But then, again, and the same thing is true for a man. Now, how does the man suffer? In the same section, in the very same section that talks about the mother in childbirth and bringing the sin offering during childbirth, right after childbirth, as even though we're celebrating the great birth of this child, what does it say? In the middle of that section, if she gives birth to a male, on the 8th day, you must circumcise him. I'm thinking about what the heck is going on over here. This is up to the woman has to bring a sin offering. The little kid's got to get circumcised. And And I remember when my sons were circumcised, my heart was beating like this. But nothing as bad as when I see my daughter Chayaleah with her sons, weeping and crying. It kills me. It kills my wife. It kills her. There's so many tears, even though we're very happy. But you know what? He's not happy. The kid for sure not. He's for sure happy. What's going on over here? Why? Didn't God create like the perfect body? Why do we have to go through a circumcision? And the answer is the same thing. Is because what the Torah does is even though we're living in today, 2007, we're always connected back to the first moment of creation. At that first moment of creation, when he said to Adam, you will be punished with this and this, the circumcision is all part of that repentance, all part of that whole milieu of trying to bring back the world into a pristine state. It will only have this, not easy. To get rid of pregnancy and childbirth and raising the children. That's why we pray. Jews have believed so much in Mashiach Tzidkenu, so much in the Messiah, as we talked about last week, that maybe one day we will go back. But until then, all of our actions that we do in this world, everything that we do as Jews, is not only as an individual. Think about it. Here we are as an individual woman, independent, president of IBM. Over here, even she has to go through childbirth. Even the chairman of the board of Hewlett Packard making $50 million a month is still going to have to go through childbirth. Why? Because that is always connected to the very first moments of creation. To that very first moments of when Adam and Eve had the opportunity, had that free choice, and that reflects into us as well. That we have that free choice of how to live our lives. We have this idea that, with this expectations, A, B, C, and D, we're going to reach a final destination and we're going to be thrilled. Not so. What's going to happen is that once we get into this idea of looking to the Torah with all of its lessons in life and how to live as a Jew, the more we buy into that, and I'm not talking about observance, don't get me wrong. This is not an idea to push, if you keep Shabbos and you put on tefillin and you do all of that, and that you're going to live a happier, better life. No, there's alcoholics, Orthodox, there's people that abuse their children and they're Orthodox. They do all of these things. I'm not talking about specifically observance of the mitzvahs, but what I'm talking about is the idea of how we should live our lives according to the ways and means of the Torah. That means the Torah says, for example, that when a husband and a wife are having difficulties, there's ways to resolve it. There are ways to resolve it. There are ways that a husband needs to respect a wife, and a wife needs to respect her husband. Once we understand all of these things, all of these not rules, all of these the method and the methodology of the Torah, not to be mistaken with observance. Like, you're having trouble with your husband, how about trying to do more mitzvahs? That's of course the easy way out, but that's superficial. That's very superficial. But I'm talking about integrating those lessons into our lives. Because what happens is, after a while, if we're frustrated in where we are as adults, we begin to play roles. Role-playing. We begin to do different things. I'm right now role-playing the past 25 years as a rabbi. Why? I just ended up that way. In school they caught me and they this and they that, and I was supposed to be something completely different. My parents didn't want me to become a rabbi. My parents wanted me to go to college to become a doctor, but because I was swept up in this wave of enthusiasm in Chabad, and here I am. I've been role-playing the role of a rabbi for 25 years. Okay? I've been role-playing this role, being a nice guy and all of that stuff, but really I'm a miserable person. Really I'm a miserable guy that couldn't care about you. Doesn't care about his congregation. Right? Doesn't care. You think you come to my office and you start telling me about your problems. Think I care. I'm thinking about lunch. What's for lunch? Will she stop talking already? Please. Why is she calling me again and again? All I'm interested in is how to get out of this thing. You know, and all of that stuff. Why? Why? Because I'm not fulfilling my destiny. There's something more that I want in life. But I ended up pigeonholed into this place. So now I start playing roles. I start thinking that I'm religious when I don't believe in God. I don't even believe in God. I don't believe in the Jewish people. I don't believe in anything like that. What happens then is that I become somebody that I'm not really. I become to playing a role that I'm not. And I begin to become smarter, and then I begin to justify things that I do, and I begin to be like a smart aleck and cover over on my deficiencies, when all the while everybody sees the charade. Everybody sees that you're not who you are. I picked myself because it's easiest to talk about me, but I'll illustrate it with the rabbi who had a problem in his house. What happened was that he had mice that were eating up his books. He had mice that were eating his books and he didn't know what to do. Every night he would come and they would be eating his books. So then one day just before Passover he learned a new rule. And the rule was that on the night of Passover, you're not allowed to eat anything after you eat the afikomen. If you're at a seder in a traditional house and they give you the afikomen, they're not serving you anymore. I'm just telling you this as friends. So if you ever go to an Orthodox house and they serve you the afikomen and you eat the afikomen, the meal is over. It's over. Don't expect chicken afterwards or this. Now, when does the afikomen normally come? When? After the meal. At the end of the meal, you give the afikomen. No more drinking except for the 2 cups of wine. No more eating, nothing like that. Ein maftirin achar Pesach afikomen. No eating after the afikomen. So the rabbi, who was a very smart guy, said, aha! So what does he do? He looks for his afikomen and he crumbles it all over his books, thinking that if the mice come now, they'll eat the afikomen, and that'll be it. They won't be able to eat his books anymore because it says Ein maftirin achar Pesach afikomen. It's a good plan, no? I thought it's a very ingenious plan. But the mice, he outsmarted himself. Why? You know what the mice first did? First they ate the code of Jewish law. Okay? So once the code of Jewish law was gone, so what happened? Now there's no more, then they ate afikomen, then they ate his books. Alright? So first they ate the code, they did away with the code of Jewish law. They first did away with the Torah. Goodbye. Once there's no Torah, then we're free. We're free to eat afikomen, and not only are we free to eat afikomen, we're free now to eat everything else after the afikomen. And many people in America live this way. What happened was, when we lived in a small shtetl in Europe, I'm not saying everybody was religious, but we have this kind of a quaint view of what happened in Eastern Europe. There were small shtetl, people were religious, everybody came to shul on a Friday night, they all sang l'chadaydi together, they went home, they ate a beautiful meal. Okay, they weren't rich, people in Eastern Europe weren't rich, but they were happy, they were satisfied, because they lived this wonderful life that gave them fulfillment and meaning. Okay, let's even say that's 30% true. Okay, let's even say if it's 30%. Forget about not being 50% true, but let's even 30% true. What happened? Then all of a sudden they begin to hear, hey, you know what? Somewhere far, far away, there's a land, you gotta do nothing. It's easy here, it's hard here to make a living. You gotta be a tailor, a shoemaker, it's hard back then. But if you get to this land, all you're gonna bring is a shovel and a pail. That's it. Because as soon as you get off the boat, gold into the pail. And that's why America was called the Golden Medina, the golden rich land of America. And what happened was that our ancestors came to the shores of this country with what kind of expectations? Gold, right? And they got off the boat and they looked down at Ellis Island, and guess what they didn't find? Gold. But what they found is opportunity. But they looked around and they saw, you know what, Shabbos, can't make a living working, you can't make a living not working on Shabbos. So they began to work on Shabbos. Then they figured, who can get a job with a beard? You can't get, so they cut off their beards. Then who's going to walk on the street in 1900? So they threw away the yarmulkes. And they did it. What happened was they moved further and further away from what? From the very thing that gave them roots, from the very thing that gave them satisfaction. Here, they discarded it and thought to themselves that this way, what's going to happen? We're going to find new roots. New things are going to compensate for us giving up the Torah. We're going to find new roots. But what happens in reality? We know there's no substitute for this. So the more they moved away from this kind of a life, the further their children moved away from this kind of a life, the further their grandchildren moved away, till eventually what happens is we shrink, and we become smaller and smaller and weaker and weaker and weaker. And if you look around, to give you this, the proof in the pudding, is those people who make a living, Jews I'm not talking about Gentiles, Jews who make a living criticizing Israel. And there's a number of them. Do I have to tell you that there's Jewish anti-Semites? There's a study, a series of studies of Jews who are who make a living out of attacking Israel. Now, think about the psychology of this. Okay, we're not a big people. We're very small people. 15 million around the world. We don't have 6 different countries that we can escape to. Unlike the Catholics, you have 30 Catholic countries in the world, 20 Catholic countries in the world, 20 Arab countries in the world. We have how many countries? 1 little country, barely. 1 country after the Holocaust where Hitler proved that he couldn't care less who you were. If you were Jewish, he'd put you into the oven. He couldn't care less what your affiliation, which temple you belong to, right? So after seeing this in history, seeing this country as an only haven for Jews around the world, they yet feel justified into making a living attacking Israel and siding with the Palestinians. Now I will argue tonight to you, is you know why they can do that? Because they seek justification for their rootlessness. They're not connected to Judaism. They're not connected to the Jewish people. Even we, take us in the room. Many of us are not the most observant people in the world. We're not tzaddikim. We don't practice Judaism 24/7. But everybody here in the room is rooted. Everybody here in the room, if you ask them, do you have some? Definitely, I'm connected to Judaism. People that make a living attacking Judaism, you will find 99% are rootless. Nothing. They've rejected organized Judaism. Doesn't talk to them. It doesn't mean anything to them. They've rejected belonging to a synagogue. Who needs that? Where have they tried to find meaning in their lives? By opening and finding acceptance by the very enemies who hate them. By the very enemies who seek to destroy them, they go out and try to find acceptance in them. By the Palestinians, whether it's the Palestinians, whoever is going to be that, the enemy of the weak. W-E-E-K, not the enemy of the weak. It's Jews, but the enemy of the week, of the month, of the this. Why? All because they lack into one of the things that we should be proud of doing, is that we have this connection to this unbelievable tree of life called the Torah. And you will see it over and over and over again that it's true. And the sad part of it is that ultimately they have to come back. They need to come back to the very people that they rejected, because they're not going to find acceptance by the anti-Semites of the world, even though they may manipulate them. Sure, they'll invite you to conferences on attacking Israel and they'll headline you, but deep down, they hate you as much as they hate Ariel Sharon for whatever crimes that he did. Because you are rootless. You have nowhere that you can hang your hat on. A Jew that walks in Jerusalem, even though they're not affiliated, they're not observant, understands that the very steps that he takes, the very place that he is home. Why? Why do we feel this way? We don't feel this way when we land in Brazil. Do you feel when you land in Brazil, they're going to go down to Rio on a carnival? You feel, oh, I came home. Wow, I'm so glad to be here. No, but you land on an El Al. What do you feel like when you land? You're not Israeli. You don't speak Hebrew. You know nothing about Zionism. You didn't shed your blood for this country. You did nothing for this country. Well, what gives you the right to call this home? Why do you feel like it's home? Yet, every person that lands the first time when an LL gets out, falls on the ground and kisses the runway in Ben Gurion Airport. What gives you the right to do this? Why? Because we understand and we realize that even though I didn't shed blood, my sons didn't shed blood for this country, I am connected to this country like with the greatest essence of who I am. Of who I am. There's no other people in the world that way. Who? Who else? You think people in Bangladesh call America home? They're going to fly here and they get off the plane and they say, we finally come home because we have this great and long history with America because the Bangladesh were here 2,000 years ago. Nobody, you don't go to anywhere in the world except the Jews flying to Israel and coming and settling over there. Now maybe this is a Zionist ploy of trying to convince us, aha, this is your home, so we support Israel. But it's more than that. It's the roots and the idea that we belong to something so much greater than who we are. What am I? Who are we? Small little individual people scurrying around trying to make something of ourselves. And yet we're connected to the strongest fiber in the universe. And when these people rip themselves off from this tree, when they detach themselves from these roots, they're wandering in a desert looking for some kind of acceptance. Please, Judaism, so you know what? I'm going to become a communist, right? I'm going to find acceptance in the Communist Party. You know how many Jews were communists during the communist reign? In the beginning of communism? Oh, and when Jews get involved, they are not mediocre players. They get involved. They want to run everything because they know everything the best. So we get communism, we get socialism, we get social activism, right? We think the communists like the Jews. They love the Jews. Rationally, the communists should have said, the number one friend of the Communist Party are the Jews. What did Lenin say? What did Stalin do? Purge the Jews, kill the Jews, massacre the Jews. The very people that supported the essence of the party were run out of the party, killed. Trotsky. Lenin was considered a father of the revolution, but Trotsky certainly was the moil. There's no doubt about that. Trotsky was the moil. What did Stalin do to Trotsky right here in our neighbor down in 1941? Trotsky ended up with an axe pick in the back of his head. Why? Because Jews were ruthless. They gave everything up and they sought acceptance from the very enemies. Think about this, much more closer to home. In the 1960s, we had freedom riders going down south. What were they doing down south? What did a kid from Detroit, Cleveland, New York, Boston, and Philadelphia have with people in Mississippi, Tennessee, and Alabama? What were they going to go down there for? To do what? Freedom. What were the freedom riders all about? They were going to register black people to vote. Okay, so you think this, okay, and exactly what part of the Code of Jewish Law does this come from? Fine, you know where it comes from? Maybe a yearning to do something good. To do something good. So they rushed down there. Remember the 3 people that were killed? There was the Ku Klux Klan killed 3 freedom riders. 2 of them were Jewish. Okay, so you would think now the logical next step would be that Israel should have tremendous support from the people that we helped. We ran as the Jewish people. I remember Martin Luther King walking down the street arm in arm with Abraham Joshua Heschel, a great spiritual leader, great rabbi in New York. What should happen logically is that we should get tremendous support from the African American community supporting Israel. You think they support Israel? You think the African American community supports Israel in a big way? No, absolutely not. You know what? When there was riots in Crown Heights in 1991, 1992, they could care less about the Schwimmer and the guy who was killed as freedom riders. Why? Because we try to gain acceptance to the very people that don't want to accept us. I'm not saying that by nature African Americans are anti-Semitic. No, they're no different than white Americans, no different than Croatian Americans, no different than Italian Americans. The moment that we say to ourselves, we need to find favor in the eyes of the Gentiles, that's the moment that we've given up our freedom. That is the very moment that we've given up everything that we need, that we hold to be dear. When the spies were in Israel, checking out whether we could make it into the land, they came back and they told Moses something very interesting. They said they were great fruits, they were big men, they were giants, very strong. And then they put one little addendum they put in there. And they said, and we were in their eyes like grasshoppers. We were in their eyes like grasshoppers. You know what that means? That means that we were nothing to them. We meant nothing to them. We were like nothing to them. We'll never be able to overcome them. And And the Torah says exactly the opposite. The Torah is like, the reason I gave you the Torah was the order for you. It should be for you, binaschem uchachmaschem le'enei kol ha'am. It should be for you a wisdom and an understanding for the nations of the world. That you should walk in the way of the Torah where people will see you proud and upright, strong and confident, knowing what's going on, and people will look at you and be jealous of you. Not like crawling to them and say, you know what, I'm going to find favor with the Palestinians because I'm going to show them now I'm not only like a moderate Palestinian, but I'm like the most radical Palestinian. I'm going to show them that I call for the total dismantlement of Israel. Not only a two-party solution, two-state solution, but I'm talking about complete dismantlement of the state of Israel. A Jew calling for dismantlement of the state of Israel, the one haven that we have, only because why? No roots. Doesn't have that connection to something that we all feel in our hearts. When we have that connection, and how it translates to us, what it motivates us in our daily lives, is that when we look in the ways and the words of the Torah, in the stories of our forefathers and foremothers, and in the stories of our prophets, we see two things. One is how we have to live practically, that means on a day-to-day basis, how a husband needs to treat his wife, how the wife needs to treat her husband, how to do all of these things, how to deal with challenges, because God Almighty, we know that there are challenges in the world. I'll give you one great challenge. Money. The business of America is, what's the business of America? Business. That's what it is. The business of America is business. Everything that we do in America is geared to one thing. Bottom line. Isn't that what we care about here in America? Do we care about philosophy? Could you name any philosophers today in America? No. We don't care about philosophy. Do we care about mechanics? Do we care about mathematics? No. All we care about is the great titans of industry. Everybody knows who the richest guy in the world is. Who's the richest guy in the world? Everybody knows his name. When you're 3 years old, you know Bill Gates' name. Everybody knows him. Why? Because he's the richest guy in the world. He's Mr. Richie Rich in the world. Everybody knows Warren Buffett. He's the richest guy in the world. Everybody knows all of these things. Because money is a driving force in this country. The most important driving force in this country. If there's anything that has substituted idol worship in America, it's the collection of dead Benjamins. You know, Benjamin Franklin's dead Benjamins. Everybody wants to collect them. Everybody wants to do this. Okay? So what happens is, we now have a choice. We either become owners of the money, or we become slaves to the money. One of the two. Which one is it? So most of us who have a superficial understanding of the ways and means of the Torah, like myself and all of that stuff, generally become slaves to the money. We got the money. Oh, Baruch Hashem, I got my first $1,000. I'm going to hoard it. I'm going to look around. Don't come near me. You don't step one step closer over here to the beamer because I got the money over here. Hey, don't look at my stash because this is all mine and I don't want you to look at it. Oh, there's a fundraiser. I better close the lights of my house because someone's going to come knocking on the door. Hello, I'm here from the J&F. We need it. Oh, I'm going to close the lights. Shh, don't say anything. Make like you're sleeping. Because God forbid, what does he want? He wants a piece of my stash. Now, who owns whom? Do I own the money or the money owns me? The money owns me. Because all day long I'm worried about what, if, can, who, what. Now, second scenario, the Torah scenario, is you own the money. You understand that this money there's a limited supply of money. That's the truth. A limited supply of money. All it is a matter of distribution. Hashem in the beginning of the year says, okay, Perelmuter, you're going to make X amount of dollars. That's it. No matter how hard you work, how much you do, you're going to make this amount of money. Mrs. B, you're going to make this amount of money. Mr. A, make this amount of money. And you know in your heart that you are an apitropos. You are a manager for God's money. It's not my money. This is God's money. And God said to me, hey, you know what? I'm a member of a shul. I'm a parent at the Hebrew Academy. I'm a member of a State of Israel bonds. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. And Hashem expects me to deal correctly with that money. Now, who owns who? Does the money own me or I own the money? I own the money. Because the money knows it's powerless. Because all it is just a vehicle for me to attain. And God could say tomorrow, hey, you know what? Forget you, I'm going to give it to this guy. Or forget you, I'll give it to this guy. Or forget you, we'll go back, etc., 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 etc. Now you own that money. It doesn't become the overwhelming force for you. You don't worry about it. You don't suffer over it. You don't have sleepless nights over it. You understand that there's a time and a purpose for everything. And believe me, having money and not having money are both tests. Of course, listen, I understand that I'd rather have a test with money. Who wouldn't want that test? Like Tevye says, it's no great shame to be poor, but it's no great honor either. You know, let's be honest about that. But believe me, Gvirim and Ashirim, wealthy people, people of means, have that same test. On this side of the aisle, who owns whom? And the same thing is true about a business. You have a business and you work hard in the business, but you sometimes lose sight of the goal of starting that business. Why did you start that business? You started the business in order to make the money, in order for you to be able to afford to help other people, to send your children to day school, to afford beautiful things for your wife, all of these things. And then all of a sudden, somewhere down the line, what happened was that business took over you. Now all of it is now it's all enhancing, now all encompassing, It's an all-encompassing endeavor that you need to make the next deal. You need to beat to the next guy. You need. What do you mean you need? You're a young man that started a business. You open up a little candy store. Now God made you successful. The candy store grew. You have 10 candy stores. Now you'll have a company that makes the candy. Baruch Hashem, you should be thrilled and understand, put everything in perspective, that this is not the end. Now you don't need more and more and more and more. Your ego became ravenous. All of a sudden you were a nice guy handing out candies to children, during recess, and now you're a big mogul, a big candy mogul that no one could reach you because you're hiding behind 30 secretaries. What happened was, we lost sight of that root. We lost sight of the words of the Torah that said that you need to be. We have the free choice, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it boils down to. That we have the free choice to make of life what we want to make of it. We could be victims. We can say, sure, if I married someone else, if I was born to other parents, if my grandfather was this, if my this was this, if I wasn't handicapped, if I was smarter, we could live as victims, sure. And if you like to live that kind of life, and believe me, plenty of people do that, and they're drama queens. Everything is, I got a splinter, I called the Surgeon General, and everything is this. You want to live life like that? Go ahead. But that's not leading a meaningful life. What means leading a meaningful life is understanding and appreciating and looking into that very essence of what made us great and what got us here. It's not a big secret to Jewish survival, even though it's a great miracle, but it's not a huge secret what got us over here. It's the idea that we understand that we have a connection, regardless of our observance across the board, to something that is timeless. That doesn't make a difference if it's 1754, 1354, or 2054. And it doesn't make a difference if you're in Spain, in America, in Argentina, in Yakutsk, or in Australia. It's all the same. It's every one of us since the day that Abraham said to his father, I don't want to have anything to do with you in this business. I'm going my own path. He took his free choice and started a brand new route. And that route, that moment that he stepped out of his father's business and he said, no more. I give up this life. I'm now a believer in monotheism. That moment changed the destiny for us, for every one of us here in this room, and for the millions and the hundreds of millions of Jews that lived before us. Because that gave us a grounding. That gave us something to wrap our arms around, to understand that when we're sitting in the train of life and waiting from one station to another station, it's not the destiny. It's not the destination. It's not the destination that's important, but it's the way we live every day on that train. It's that journey that keeps us going. It's the excitement of waking up every day. Something new is going to happen. Something exciting is going to happen. You take people, for example, that just started a new hobby. New hobby. Building planes. You ever talk to people that's got into this new hobby of doing anything? They're consumed with it. They can't shut up about it. They'll run to hobby conventions. They'll go to plane conventions. They'll go to this. This guy is crazy, right? He's completely lost it. He's got so excited about building planes. But you know what? In this world that he's in right now, it's exciting. He's living in that moment. Now, I would love, if I was able to live every day with that kind of a passion, I would love it. I would love waking up every morning and understanding that today is another opportunity. It's unbelievable. I can't wait to put my clothes on, and I can't wait to get out there. It's a sunny, I live in California. Thank you, Lord. I could have been living in Minot, North Dakota. For Pete's sake, they could have sent me to North Dakota, Chabad of Minot. Can you imagine that? And go running around with the moose. You know, have 10 moose for a minyan on Shabbos. You know, all of that stuff. You know, there's a thank God I'm here in California. What can I do today? What's on the agenda today? And I embrace every challenge that comes my way. And I love it because this is what I live for. Oh, I wouldn't love that, to wake up every day to feel that way. Now, what stops me? What stops me is because I'm a shmendrik. That's what stops me. I'm a shmendrik. And I lose sight. I lose sight of that guy traveling on the train, and I think there's a destination. I think, Baruch Hashem, June 3rd we have an event. Oh my gosh, if it's going to be successful, I'm going to be like Rocky on that thing's up there, and I'm going to be thrilled. I'm going to be thrilled. But I got to realize, dummy what I am. That event is only a vehicle to something greater. We have now a building. Oh, that's it. I can retire now. We got our building. Finished. It's over. Shmendrik. I have to realize that this building is now a challenge. Hashem presented a challenge to me. Not to me. To us. To all of us. To now ratchet it up. That there's now X more people we can help. More people we can help. More programs. We can make news. We could be famous the world over. Right? If that's what we want to. Which we were going to be. One day we will be. Because if it doesn't work, I blow up the church. You know, everybody in it. If it doesn't work. So I warn you right now. It could be ugly over there. I want that stricken from the record. FBI's going to find it. Right away they'll be arresting me. Homeland Security. Right away. But see, all of these things, what stops me is the idea that I don't embrace every single day with the things that I should embrace. Note the first words of the Code of Jewish Law. First words, Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Summit. Before any law, before how to get dressed, before how to pray, before how to wash your hands, before eating, before grace after meals, before any rule, the first preamble is Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Summit. God is forever before my eyes. Why did they put that in there? Why is that so important? Because that is the driving force of a Jew. Regardless, you do put on tefillin, you do light Shabbos candles, you keep kosher, you don't keep, that's something we work on the next series. We'll work on observance. Right now we're working on attitude, on an attitude that God is the driving force in our lives. That Hashem has given us an opportunity that we wake up every single morning to be the best that we can possibly be. To be the greatest mother, the greatest father, the greatest brother, the greatest rabbi, the greatest housewife, the greatest teacher, the greatest lawyer, doctor, whatever you are, football player, everything, God gave us this opportunity. And every day we need to embrace it. It's not what's going to happen June 3rd, May 4th, December 16th, another 3 years, 8 years down the line. It's today. It's what's going on today in our lives that makes the difference of what's going to happen tomorrow. Who knows what happens tomorrow? We don't know, God forbid. You know what? We see every day things happening. Who knows what happens? It's today. And when we live that life like today, when we understand that we're connected, Hashem has given us this opportunity to do something great, you know what happens? All of a sudden, everything else falls into place. All of the expectations, sure, we may be disappointed. We could work hard on a project. It doesn't. But what that is, what that attitude will allow us is to say, you know what? Let's look back at the steps that we took. What went wrong? Let's analyze it. The concept is right. We know that it's right. We know that it's going to work. But let's try to next time do it better. Next time do it smarter. Next time work more diligently or more focused. All of these things, and that, my friends, is what roots the Torah gives to us. Look around in the Jewish community and you will see. You will see it's no great, we're not doing a sociological great study over here, but you will see the people that are firmly rooted, and it doesn't matter, I don't care whether you're more observant or less observant, it just happens to be that the more observant you are, the more it seems, I don't know why, but the more politically connected you are to Israel, politically connected to Israel. And it starts to sway, the numbers begin to fall off the more you go down the spectrum the other way. It becomes less and less and less of an attachment to Israel. Now that's something else to be said. I mean, we could think about it and discuss it, at another date. But I say that right now for tonight, the idea is that we started off with a traveler who had expectations. His expectations were not met, he became bitter. He became bitter and ended up his life as the worst person, angry, in a train that's never going to stop because he didn't realize, he didn't take that moments that he should have taken and make them work for him. We're smarter. We don't have to rebuild them. We don't have to rebuild the wheel. We have the wheel right here. It's back there in that book, right there in the book, on the top shelf that says Chamishe Chomshe Torah, to read the Chumash, to read the stories, to read it with our children, with our spouses, and to think about that. To think about what we could learn from our forefathers, the way Jacob treated his two sons. Even that way we learn. Favoritism doesn't pay. Favoritism doesn't pay. Now some people can't help themselves. They have 6 kids, one of them is the favorite of all of them. Now what does that lead to? Jealousy. Of course, it leads to jealousy and Joseph being sold to the Egyptians. And every story that we have in the Torah is chock full of lessons that we can bring into our daily lives. Everything from the rules to the stories to the revelations to words of castigation and words of encouragement. They're all there for us to take. But Hashem says one thing He won't do. He will never hoist it and force us to do it. That He won't do. He's never going to force Himself in anybody's life. He'll give you the opportunity. He'll send a rabbi, he'll send a prophet, he'll send a messenger, he'll send this, different things. You have to be able to open up your heart and let Hashem in. That's why, if you read the Shema, and most of us know the Shema, it says, "V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha v'chol levavcha v'chol meidecha v'chol moedcha. V'hoyu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavcha yom al levavecha." I place these words that I have today, al levavecha, on your heart. Why does it say on your heart? You could go home tonight, if you have children that say the Shema tonight, ask them this question. Say, why does it say al levavecha? What it should say is bilvavecha. I place these words where? In your heart. What do you mean on your heart? Why al levavecha? So the great Rabbi Unterman, the former chief rabbi of Israel, once explained that what Hashem means is He places the words on your heart. What you have to do is open up your heart and let Him in. That's our job. Our job is not to be stubborn and to say, when the day will come, Hashem will show me a sign. Hashem wants me to do something religious. He'll show me a sign. He'll obviously make a sukkah in my backyard. I won't have to do it. He'll place a sukkah right in my backyard. Then I'll know that I should have to sit in a sukkah. I don't have to go buy the Home Depot and build a sukkah. Okay. Or you know what? He'll all of a sudden miraculously a lulav and esrog will appear. But you know what He does? He sends some yeshiva boy with a lulav and esrog to chase you down the street to show you that it does happen. Miracles do happen. All of these things are only for our benefit. It's only there to give us tremendous meanings in our lives. That no matter how we live our lives and what our attitudes are, but if we're part of the tribe, the MOTs, members of the tribe, and we have this history from 3,500 years ago, we're the vanguards of carrying over to the next generation, and to the next generation, and to the next generation. And that's our job. And the more we are attuned to it, and the more we embrace it, the more happier we are, and the more meanings we have in our lives. We were just talking before, and we were joking about what were we joking about, Kenny, before this class started? It seems like 3 days ago. I'm telling you, it seems like ever and ever and ever. What?
Personal trainer.
Personal trainer. Perfect. Okay? Working out. Okay? Working out is the worst possible thing there is in the world. It's the worst. It's the biggest punishment. There's nothing like it. God only gave it to people because they ate from the first apple. That's what it is. The first apple, eating the apple meant Adam is going to have to work out now. Beforehand, he could eat whatever he wanted, wouldn't gain an ounce. Now, he looks at a piece of cake, gains 3 pounds right away. So what do you have to do? Go work out. So I, like a Michigan, decided, okay, I'm going to have to lose some weight. I'm going to work out. We have here a fellow, Kenny. I want to thank Kenny for bringing Scott to the show. I meet Scott. I took this lesson, like I said, I took the lesson because Hashem sent him over here, a personal trainer. At the very moment that I'm thinking about losing weight, this was a sign to me. This was a sign that, okay, Perelmuter dayenu. Okay, finished, enough. Little did I understand what I'm getting myself into when I made this commitment. Because this guy is Himmler's grandson. There's nothing else to talk about. He's the worst. I'm telling you, he's the worst. Today, I went today to work out today because I meet him twice a week. Then I pray that the Tuesday never comes. I hope it goes from Monday to Wednesday. It should leap over. And then from Wednesday to Friday, Tuesday and Thursday are now the bleak days of my week. I come over there. The guy works you out like a horse. Okay, like I think, and then I say to the guy, think of the Nazi mentality of this guy. This guy's a cruel. He's like a scorpion. That's all I can think of, like a scorpion. I say to him, "Can I sit down?" No, I'm dying. He puts the treadmill and stick, and makes you go like up a hill. And he puts it higher. I'm sweating like I'm having a heart attack. I said, "Can I sit down?" No. You want to relax? Let's take a walk. Okay, so we walk. I'm not getting. Okay, fine, we take a walk, push-ups, sit down, no, 10, 10, everyone is like, please God, kill me, then the sit-ups, then the weights, that's like 1 pound, they're Nazi, I'm telling you, okay, I tell you all of this, why? Because I've got to get out of my system, because otherwise I'm going to have to hire a therapist, cost money. It's like this, I open up to you, you're cheap. Okay, you actually pay here to come and, so I can talk to you. All right. So what happens is, I think to myself during the day that working out and what I'm talking tonight is exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. The moment that I embrace it and say, you know what, this is something that I need to do, and this is part of the overall wellness of Perelmuter's mental well-being and physical well-being, and I make it part of my routine. You know what's going to happen? I'll be successful. If I keep fighting it, every day I wake up and I say to myself, maybe he got into an accident today. Let's hope, maybe I call up the JCC. Is Scott there? Yes. Oh, sure. Well, I call up there. No, he's not. I can dance. I keep fighting it. I can guarantee you, because I've been through this before. It's not my first time I've decided to lose weight. I could write up 10 books on it. I was up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. I will never be successful. Why? Because I'm fighting it, and I hate it. And one day I'm going to say to myself, "What am I talking crazy? What am I totally crazy? You get up in the morning to get beaten up by this guy over and over and over again? It's only a crazy masochist. I'm not a masochist. I'll be honest with you. I get no pleasure of him pounding on me. Do the push-ups, do the sit-ups, lift the weight, stretch your arms. Come on, let's go for another little walk. Okay, doesn't happen. It's the same thing is true what we talk about tonight. As long as we fight it, and as long as we, are not comfortable with it, it doesn't become second nature to us. We don't embrace it. But the moment we embrace it, the moment we say to ourselves, man, this is the greatest thing. I'm so thrilled that I was born a Jew. I'm so happy that God chose me out of the billions of people. God took me as one of the 15 million special people, and I embraced that idea with my whole heart, my whole essence, my whole being. And what can I do to show you favor and how to return that favor, God? My life is completely different. The moment we realize that, it's completely different. Just like embracing the weight, just like embracing the exercise. The moment I embrace it and begin to realize it's part and parcel of something for my well-being, mental and physical health, that my children will benefit from this, I'm a good example for them. You know what? I have to do this. They have to do this. They need to take care of themselves. I got to be the first one. And Nia Rishon, I'm the first one. I'll be successful. I'll lose the weight and keep it off. If I continue to fight it, believe me, I could be standing here next year this way, like this. And it's very possible. It's very possible because everybody in America, I'm starting a new business now. I'm collecting used exercise equipment. Everybody in America has at least one treadmill, one bicycle, one elliptical cycle, one stepper that they use now for a closet. They hang their clothes on it, they put their shoes on it, they have other stuff on it, boxes, storage. You go from house to house in America and just collect bicycle equipment. You could sell it for you could become a billionaire. I'm telling you, a billionaire. Why? Because everybody gets excited. You watch if you click on early Sunday morning, you go to click on the TV. Half of the channels are either selling you Jesus or weight loss. One of the two. There's nothing else on Sunday mornings. You're either going to be connected to Jesus or you're going to be sweating to the oldies. Yeah. One of the two. One of the two. So I don't buy Jesus. So I watch the sweating to the oldies. I get tired watching them. Here I'm going to do my obliques, this. And you're never in a billion years going to look like that guy. Never in a billion years. I don't care how much you work out. That guy is 6'3", weighs 110 pounds. He needs to exercise like I need to eat another Danish. Okay? But I'm telling you, that's what it is. So they sucker you in. I say, oh, that's the machine I want. That's the secret. If I could get this machine that goes like this, with your feet up in the air like you're giving birth, and all of that stuff, you're turning, twisting up and down, then I'm going to, so I quickly dial up the number, 4 easy payments of $111. I give them my credit card. It comes, I don't put it together because how am I supposed to put it together? I'm Jewish, I finally get a non-Jewish friend. Gentile puts it together. I use it once or twice. This is a stupid machine. I put it back in the garage next to the other stupid machine, the other stupid machine, and the other stupid machine. And I'm out $500 because I got excited. Now let me give you just a hint. Okay? This is a free piece of advice. I'm not even going to charge you for this. If you ever watch an infomercial, okay? And they say 3 easy payments of $29.95, and you can't afford the whole payment, don't buy it. If you have to go for $29.95, it's not for you. It's not for you. The oldies 70s collection, the best collection. Oh, I love that music. I grew up in the 70s. I love that music. 3 easy payments of $25.99. Like, if you can't afford $75, don't buy it. Use the money to buy milk, bread, cheese, and good things for your family to eat. You can afford the price. That's just a free piece of advice from me that I shouldn't say that you didn't get anything out of this class. Okay? This is the best piece of advice you got all night. Anyways, everybody understands what the story is. The idea is next week we're going to be tackling quite a difficult subject. Something that, tonight we were dealing with as adults and meaning, and I think it's important what we talked about this evening, embracing all of the things, understanding where we're connected and where our roots are, and where really we have to look for to find inspiration and guidance anytime we have, we're dealing with. Because I could it's so simple, but you don't have to do it. Ask anybody. Just ask anybody. The day of Shabbos. Give me one last example, and we'll let everybody go because it's already after 9 o'clock. I'm sure they're waiting for you. So, and you want to stay here. All right, you pay extra, I'll tell another. The thing is like this. Think of Shabbos. Think of just that idea of Shabbos. What is it? Hashem says 6 days you work hard, the 7th day, I'm writing already. 7th day, you relax. Don't do anything. I've been in this business of bringing people closer to Yiddishkeit, trying to bring people closer to Yiddishkeit since 1981. It's already going on 26 years we've been in this business. And I'm telling you, today is Tuesday night. Without a doubt, more people have become closer to Yiddishkeit because of chicken soup on Saturday night than anything that you could read. Anything, take any of Maimonides' books, and believe me, I'm not disparaging Maimonides, a great scholar, a tzaddik, he's revolutionized Judaism. More people became closer to Yiddishkeit because of chicken soup. You know why? Because you come to a house, forget about the rabbi's house, you come to a home on a Friday night, and if anybody's home here, and you see the people sitting around the table, and nothing else is happening except the family is sitting there enjoying their company, and no phones are ringing, no beepers are going off, no television is playing, no Xbox, no computers, no what do you call those, iPods. Everything is shut down. All you have to do is rely on each other for conversation. when people come into, I'll use me as an example, come into our house, we haven't done it since we started the show, we've knocked that out, unfortunately, but God willing, as soon as we move into the new place, we'll once again have a normal Shabbos meal. But that Friday night meal, with my kids around the table and guests sitting over there, and we begin to talk of what you did this week and what you learned this week, and can you say something about what you studied and what this means and what that means? I'm telling you, people want it. People love that kind of a life because they know that they're missing something. They're missing something. All week we're struggling, we're going somewhere. We have nowhere to come home to. We have nowhere to call home. And that Shabbos gives us a home. So do I need to say more? It has nothing to do with religion. Forget about even religion. Forget about Yiddishkeit. Don't light the candles. Don't even drink the wine. But the mere fact that you're sitting around the table with your children and you're giving them time. It's like the old story of that kid calls up his father. I think I told this during the holidays, and he asks him, he's a high-priced attorney. He says, how much do you charge an hour? He says, $300. So he tells the father, can I borrow $280 from you? The father says, why? He says, because I have $20. I'd like to buy an hour of your time. I want an hour of your time. You have no time for me anymore. We used to have time all the time. Remember that the old song, Harry Chapin, The Cat in the Cradle. The Cat's in the Cradle. Remember that song, what I'm talking about? Does anybody know about the song that I'm talking about?
Of course.
No? And you never know, they may be such tzaddikim, they never listen to the real. That's all about keeping Shabbos. That's all about keeping Shabbos. You didn't know that? That song is all about keeping Shabbos. If the father had kept Shabbos, if he had kept Shabbos, he wouldn't be able to write that song. But what was he? He was never home, right? He was running around, never home. And what happened was, at the end, the son treated him exactly the same way. Don't bother coming here, Dad. I'll call you, you don't call me. Now I don't want to need a relationship with you when I'm 40. I needed to when I was 4. When I'm 40, thank God I can take care of myself. Whose fault? Who's going to be the pisher? Who's going to be the pisher when that happens? So that's just one example. Just one example of what Yiddishkeit brings to the table. We all understand it. So this week we talked about the positive reinforcement of what Yiddishkeit does in God, bringing God into our lives. Next week, the 4th section, is a little bit more of a difficulty because I built this Pollyannic world tonight. If you do this, everyone's going to be smiling, come into your house, we'll be happy guys, jumping around like this. It's going to be, like we're all smoking pot. All right? Just our family, just high on pot every day. Don't worry, hey, what's the difference? Happens today, it'll come tomorrow, not tomorrow, Thursday. What's the difference? Relax. You're too tense, man. Chill out. Sit down, take your shoes off. Okay, so next week, the challenge is because there is pain and anguish and suffering in the world. There is true trauma in the world. We see trauma. We see people getting hurt all the time. And how are we able to deal with this based upon a God-based religion, saying that God is so good, God is so great, and we do see things, people are suffering. How do we deal with that? And then we'll deal with that next week, and we'll go from there. All right? Okay. Any questions, as we always ask? No? All right.
How do you escape?
How do you escape from what?
Well, you said the question, and maybe it's just something I need to think about the instant gratification. Because, we start out with a cupcake, and as you get older, the cupcake gets bigger and bigger. And bigger,
yes.
and the carrot gets dangled, and
right.
The corporation gives you a bigger salary and a
right.
bonus, and
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I would go for the bonus. I would go for everything that you're talking about, but I wouldn't allow that to be the end all and means all. That's what I wouldn't do with my life. I wouldn't. Good night. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I would not say to myself, "Hey, you know what? I've hit this level. I've hit this level of in the corporation. That's it. Now I've made it." No. The driving force is I got to do the best job in the corporation because it gives me meaning. It gives me fulfillment. That I know that I come here to work every day. The work is not the utmost. The work is not, hey, I'm going to make more money for AT&T. I'm going to make AT&T a better company or this. No, I do it because I have pride in what I do. And I wake up every morning trying to be the best possible person. So if I come here and the manager says, hey, you know what, Abba, Kenny, this is our project, this is what we need to do, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to give it my best. Not because at the end of the day I'm going to get a bonus. If a bonus comes, great, I'm thrilled with it. But I do it because I understand that I got to be productive. I don't want to waste my time. I want to do something that benefits human beings. I could never do a job, never ever do a job. If a guy told me, hey, you know what, I'll pay you money just to stand there and just swing the bat like this. I love the way you swing. I could never do that job. Because I want to be productive. I want to do something that benefits people. And I don't care if I work for AT&T, if I work for MG, GM, or if I work for Microsoft, or if I'm a rabbi, or I teach in a school. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm doing that because it gives me self-satisfaction.
And maybe I can ask the question, right? It becomes a heroin, and how do you escape the heroin? You know what I mean?
By changing your attitude.
Yeah.
Changing your attitude, shifting your focus, making your priorities different. What are you living for? What is the purpose of your life?
And I think you pointed that out tonight.
You know, what is the meaning? What do you want to be? What do you want to look back in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years and say to yourself, what was I? What did I do? What am I going to avoid? That if I look back in 15 years from now, I'm going to say, why wasn't I smarter at that age? Why didn't I make the right decision at that age? What stopped me from making the right decision? That's basically what it is. Okay?